Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you just joining, my name is Ethan Downing, one of the co-founders of Logista. This is another installation of the Preparedness Partners webinar series, how to make your logistics SNS resilient with the Logista platform. I know we got folks who are still coming in. We got a lot to get through today, a lot to show. So we're going to jump into things and get going, and hopefully we'll be able to catch everybody else up. Drew, I'm going to hand it over to you for kicking us off proper.
Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, really excited to be here. Before we kind of dive into what we're doing today, want to give some background on what this is and why we're here. Logista, our LMS system, we spent the last few years building. This comes from real life response from our COVID experience. It comes from fire experiences, our public health experiences, and it comes from hundreds of conversations from folks like you. So, I see a lot of names in here that we've talked, you've helped shaped it, you've helped formed it. I've spent 17 years in emergency management and public health trying to make a difference, and taking a step back after COVID, I really wanted to do something that could make a difference, while I sleep, that can compound and do something more than I could, personally. And this is where we landed. And we were able to secure funding from the United Nations and from Columbia University to go have those conversations. And we've had over 200 now, local, states, feds, on what's needed in the field. Because when I've deployed, whether it's federal, state, local, it's using commercial systems or these custom builds that just ended up failing because they're too complex. So I did not think my career would take me down this path, but this is where we are. And it's one of the more exciting chapters right now. So I'm excited for you guys to be part of it and see this. What we'll do today, we're going to run through an SNS scenario. The system has a lot of power. It can do a lot of cool things. It can do different scenarios. So we can always connect offline, go through some of those, point of dispensing, burn rates, all this fun stuff. But we're going to focus on the SNS because as y'all have heard and as we've heard and having conversations offline, online, SNS is changing. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to look very different. And we're going to have to fill those gaps. So, talking with a lot of the states, some of the locals, they're stockpiling. And one of the hardest things I think we can do is that RSS function and receiving stuff quickly and pushing it out and keeping track of it during a complex event. So that's what we'll do. If there's stuff that really piques your interest, make a note, reach out to me. I'll share my email during this. And we can connect and do a deeper dive on that.
Thank you, Drew. Thanks for that intro and getting us kicked off proper. Kind of digging into things high level, zooming way out. We wanted to talk really what's our problem when it comes to response and disaster logistics. And it really boils down to one thing, and that's actionable, trustworthy data. Do we know what resources we have on hand, how much, what are our counts, where are they located, how quickly they're being used? We had somebody reach out with an accurate comment where they had said, they're dealing with a lot of human error, some inconsistent counts and missing information. Ultimately, it boils down to how trustworthy our information is, how actionable. So how do we take this complex world of responses and disasters and make it simple? And that's not just the moving something into a digital framework. It's also making sure that digital framework is easy and simple enough that people can execute in it. The more fields and steps you incorporate, we have found, the less likely people will fill those fields out. And then your data becomes very untrustworthy and very spotty. So at Logista, we kind of came up with 3 pillars that we've leaned on heavily. We call them the 3 C's, which are counts, categories, and continuity. So I'm going to run through each of these, but the goal of this is to increase our interoperability, especially in this SNS scenario. We're on all these different data islands right now. Everybody's on their version of spreadsheets or their LMS. Everybody's got different naming conventions. Everybody counts differently. There's no way to support each other if we're on these little islands and there's no bridges for the data. So the first problem we came across was how people are counting. There's a lot of different measurements that people use, units, whether it's boxes, crates, pallets, things like that, which makes sense in a commercial system because Commercial logistics management systems are concerned about selling SKUs. So a pack of pens is 1 unit. For us, we're going to be able to break that apart and use those pieces. So a really good example for SNS is, if you have medical countermeasures that are coming in bottles of 500 pills per unit, you're not giving 500 pills to every individual. You're going to receive that. And usually at point of distribution of the pod, you're going to break it apart and you're going to get dosage. So that's a really good example of why counting in eaches makes things more effective, more efficient, and reduces confusion. The next thing is very closely related, which is category level counting. So first, figuring out what we have in terms of eaches, and then aggregating that up to a category. We're not super interested in how many individual products we have. So if you have 50 different products for your medium exam gloves, that takes a long time to add that up. What we're really concerned about is how many medium nitrile exam gloves do we have across all manufacturers, all brands, all products. Traditional commercial systems don't think that way because they need to sell SKUs. We are much more concerned about what we have on hand and how can we leverage it. Which brings us kind of to this last point of this continuity. And this is the most complex piece of the puzzle, which is how do you get real-time data across multiple sites that will also be informed by the rate you are using those items. So a lot of people will talk about logistics, and it's viewed as a response as the warehouses pushing things out, when really the picture looks more like this. It's more of, the strike teams, points of distribution, shelters, all the things in the field where everything is being used and consumed. How do we organize that in a way that makes sense? And can we group some of these together so that we can aggregate that data up? So for Logista, we use a data wrapper called a group, and that's any type of like inventory. Those could be warehouses, it could be caches, or responses. And most of what's going to be used in the system is response-based. And this is for a couple of reasons. One, it gets you your data faster. Two, anything that's used in that group gets tagged by that group name. So anything for a response gets a date, a timestamp, who used it, when they used it. All of that can be used for reimbursement, for justification, to show, hey, we've used all of the things that we could possibly use, and now we're requesting more support from the SNS. Or here's everything we know can be reimbursed. We have it down to the second it was used and why it was used. So that documentation portion is really important. Quick thing on burn rates before we just hop into the demo. I know a lot of people are big fans. For those of you who are, still kind of looking at that and on the fence, burn rate is an item plus time, and the ability to look and cross-cut all your data by periods of time and aggregate that to like an average daily burn rate can be very useful. So you can look at each response and what you're using during a response. You can look at what you've used for the year. You can look at it by item. So instead of all supplies, you can look at how many gloves you used over the last year, how many masks, how many gowns. The important thing is that it becomes predictive the more data you get. So let's say we're in this response to the last 2 weeks of April, and we're wondering what's happening in May and June. So in this kind of peachy colored area, we're really interested in what that trajectory could be and how does that affect the rest of our response. If you have that burn rate data, you can start plotting out that slope, figure out what your burns are going to be and what you need to have on the ground before you actually need it. PARs are great for grocery stores, and that's what like a lot of people are using right now. They're static and they don't flex based on dynamic environments like responses. So we want to really move away from that. And we've infused that capability throughout Logista through and through. Big point here is just time plus item is a burn rate. As we get more of these burn rates, we can do a lot of really interesting things with them. You can use it for budgeting. You can use it for operations. You can pre-position stuff based on what those burn rates are. They're very, very valuable useful items that we want to start leveraging and get people comfortable with more and more and more. The issue in the past is they're really hard to capture because if people aren't actually inputting the data when they burn it, you don't have burn rates. And that's been the hard part. Uh, Today, we're going to cover the mobile platform. We're going to cover our dashboards and analytics. No problem, Josh. See that? Thank you. And then we're going to talk about a few cool items that we're doing for the future. This is all the stuff we're going to try to run through. If we happen to not hit on something today, again, because we're trying to jam through quite a bit, please reach out. Some of your different mission spaces will have this. It might be a little different. We can talk more in depth about how it fits for you, what sort of innovations are there. But on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Vic, our CTO, and he's going to bring up the mobile platform for us to jump into. So Vic, over to you, sir.
All right. This is the mobile platform. So we'll show off the mobile platform first. This is the view that most of the workers in the warehouse or pods will see. And the idea is if you can make it very simple, easy to use, then you can accurately keep track of all of your accounts and what comes in and what goes out. So after logging in, this is the first screen to orient ourselves. We're looking at the warehouse one. So we can actually select based on permissions, but select different types of groups. So different responses. So I can select a pod response and different sites that are under that response. But for this demo, we'll be looking at a warehouse. And then after you select the warehouse, it'll just you can confirm it with the address and GPS and map locations. So first screen that I'll show is the dashboard. So at this warehouse, you might be wondering, like, at a very, very high level view, what do I have? So we can look at different assets or consumables. Asset, looking at, let's see, how many ventilators do I have here? I can see that I have 14 available ventilators. 4 have been deployed to outside agencies or are in use by specific people, and 3 are under maintenance. I can look at other ones. This is a mobile phone. This one's a mobile phone. 16 available, 2 deployed in this location, and 0 in maintenance. So this is just a very quick way of looking at what do we have. We can also do something similar for consumables. So these are one and done. I'll look at surgical mask. So these are surgical mask is the category, and then we'll have actually list out the specific product. And in this case, we actually start to see the idea of burn rate. So we can actually highlight 21 days remaining, right? In this warehouse, we have 12,000 in stock. But based on our historical usage over the last 7 days, we use about 550 per day. So just doing arithmetic, we estimate that, okay, we have about 21 days left. And using the same ideas, we have this idea of a fire list where we show these are all or just maybe the top 5 products or so that or categories that we have, current quantity, as well as highlighting how many days or what are you running out of. So it's just a quick way of seeing, I need to like start ordering Doxy and Cipro and amoxicillin before they actually run out.
And one of the reasons we structured the dashboard this way is because we experienced during COVID and as in other deployments, how frequently you get pegged for questions at a very high level, like how many masks have we pushed out? How many gowns have we pushed out? Those very high level, quick questions, instead of having to add everything up in a system, you can just drop into the dashboard and search for that category, masks, gloves, whatever it is. And the fire list focuses your attention so that you don't have to wonder what you need to look at. It kind of guides you. It says, here's the things we think are critical right now.
Great. All right. And then we have a map here that shows the different warehouses in the group. So green is you right now, and then blue is just where the other ones. All right. So next page will be the storage location. So let's say you're in the warehouse and you're wondering, it's a big warehouse, you're wondering what's in this tri-wall, what's in this cabinet or in this shelf. That's the next screen here, next icon here. And here we have different storage locations in that warehouse. Right. So we have aisle A3, B2, and then just different aisles that storage locations that you can look at. So there's different ways of actually navigating this. You can just look at this. You could actually search A003, or if you just walk to an aisle and you have pre-tagged, like put QR codes or UP or barcodes on the tri-wall or shelving, you can actually scan it and then here, and it will automatically like go jump to the right one. And you can dig into it and see, oh, what are the consumables or assets inside this storage location? And here we have Doxy. This is at the category level. And one more time, you can drill into it and see specific product lines that we have. We have different Doxy. Some are different lot numbers or different expiration dates or in different, yeah. So here we have two with different lot numbers, and actually highlighted in red is it's already expired. So it's just to alert you that these are things that are or have already expired, and of course expiration dates we might extend them, but this is just to alert you to the fact that there are things that are expired or expiring.
And one thing I forgot to mention before I kicked it over to Vic was we tried to infuse this with a visual language that you'd learn once and then it becomes repetitive over and over. So if you're training folks like MRC volunteers, if you have National Guard deploying with you, if they need some tailgate training, some just-in-time training, we try to teach one kind of thing and then repurpose it. So this ability to scan on the mobile, that can be applied to locations. It applies to products, consumables, supplies, or equipment and assets. Anything that can be scanned, we tried to leverage that. That universal search that Vic showed us, that's infused throughout. You'll see it on the desktop. You'll see it on here. It searches across multiple categories, multiple fields. So you don't have to find that right field and assign it. It does the work for you. So it's meant to be extremely intuitive. And again, the purpose of the mobile is to take action. If you're in the warehouse, if you're in the field, find a product, do something with that product. So Vic's going to show us how to make some of that magic happen right now.
All right. So say you're at this specific storage location and you found the Doxy that you're interested in and you want to take action. It takes you to this form and say we want to use it. And then it just pre-populates the storage location you're at. And you can say how much do you actually want to use. And this is count by eaches, but you can also count by SKU if you want to. So this just allows just easy. If you want to take the whole bottle, you can just take, instead of typing in 500, you can just type in one SKU and it will just automatically do the math behind the scene. So let's say we want to take 10 bottles out. So that's about 5,000 counts or eaches. So we submit, continue. And if once we confirm, it will have a final screen just to confirm we are using 10 SKUs of doxycycline, and we're in the warehouse 1 and specifically at a specific storage location. And then we hit submit and it will automatically log this and say 5,000 have been used.
So Vic, can I run us through a hypothetical here? I'm looking for, I need to send a ventilator out to a partner. Is that something you can walk us through assets? Where would I find that? What's that look like in the mobile?
So let's say you actually have the physical ventilator and which has an asset tag. So we can actually scan the code. Okay, so this is an available ventilator, and specifically, and you can see specific information about it, UDIs, serial numbers, purchase, what grant it's a part of. You can also see that service, you should be aware that service should have been done 2 weeks ago or so, as well as the asset tag and different information regarding it. So we can look at assets here, medical airway ventilators, and I can choose one over here. Let's just choose this one. It's green. Yellow means it's under maintenance. Green means it's available in the warehouse. So this one, I can take action. So if I want to deploy it to another, you said deploy, right? To an external agency. Deploy. This is where it originated from, deploy the ventilator, and I can say, who do I want to deploy it to? So let's say I want to deploy it to Toledo Hospital, hit confirm, and it will just confirm all the information. And then when it hits submit, it will get sent out.
And so on the back end, it's tracking all that stuff. We already have points of contact for things like external partners, like a hospital. We track 2 points of contact because we learned through COVID that sometimes people get burned out during responses. And if you've only got contact information from one person, you don't always get those ventilators back. And at 15 to 20 grand a pop, that's a lot of money really quick. So it's trying to anticipate needs and streamline it as much as possible. As it's going through, as it's tracking. So really try that into
Ethan and Vic, what kind of look like electronic footprint is there then when you assign it to someone?
Yeah. So when it comes to documentation, and I can get into this a little bit more on the desktop, every time we make an action in the system, it creates a log. So as it's being sent out, it's logging who's sending it, who's taking that action, when it's being taken, and then who's receiving it. So whether that's an internal transfer within your agency, so if let's say you are doing pods and you're pushing from the warehouse to a pod level, it'll track going to the pods. It'll also track, again, going externally to things like partner hospitals or other agencies as well.
And then is there any kind of automatic notification to that point of contact in you?
Yeah, great point, Drew. So it also generates emails, sort of light receipts, so everybody's on the same page. So as we deploy that asset out, it sends an email to the recipient and to your lead in the warehouse that says this item is being mobilized for you, or items. You can stack them as much as you need, and it'll say the serial number, the manufacturer, the product is being sent to you. And essentially it's like, hey, let's get everybody on the same page. And there's a record in addition to what's in our system. So they have that email receipt. When we recover it, it sends out another email that says you're no longer responsible for these items. So that way, if there's a difference in discrepancy, you can always go back and be like, that email that we sent you and that you affirmed had, 50 items on it. We only got 49 back. So it's really just meant to clear things and put everything on the same playing field. Everybody knows what the expectation is.
All right. One thing I want to also show was Ethan kind of mentioned it, where you're pushing out something from a warehouse to a pod. So let's say we want to push out another ventilator. Our previous ventilator, which we deployed, is now in red, by the way. So here, let's say this one, we want to deploy it to a pod. So in this case, that would be a transfer. So we're transferring it we want to change the destination group to a pod. We'll do pod 1, St. John's High School, and then confirm. So here, now it's been transferred, it's in transit, or it's being transferred over to pod 1. And now later on, pod 1 will receive a message, and then they can actually confirm receipt of the ventilator. So I think one more thing I want to show was just adding a consumable into the system. So here, let's say you have a new consumable, so you can scan it. Okay, let me hide the barcode. So first, I just printed this out like a face mask from Walgreens, and print out this QR code, which is the UDI code, using the Good ID database. So here, you should actually have all of the information, the lot number, and automatically pull the lot number, expiration date from the database so that you don't have to manually type in everything. In category, so this is mask, so surgical mask, manufacturer, this case it was Walgreens, and count per SKU, that's from the box, so that's 25, and that's it. And then if we want to add a price, we can just add, let's say, $10.99. Right. And that's it to add a new consumable into the system. So hit save. And now the consumable has been created. Now, if we want to actually see it in the system, we would have to add it to a specific storage location. So let's add that QR code again. All right. So now this pulls up the same consumable, and we can take action, add it to a database. Let's say we bought 100 boxes. Continue, and just submit. And then now we have 100 SKUs of this box here.
And this is tracking lot, expiration, manufacturer, all the stuff that takes forever to fill up has already been automated because we've added that product to the system. So anybody going forward just scans the product or searches for the product using the menus that are there.
Great. Let's see. Yeah. I added it to the default storage location. So now if I'm here, look at consumables. Now I have 1,000 surgical masks.
I was going to say that's the category level counting we're talking about. So just drilling down from a category to your products.
All right. I think that's all I had. So yeah, back to you, Ethan.
All right. So I'm going to kick us off on the dashboard. So biggest difference between, again, that mobile view and the desktop is mobile is action oriented. It doesn't have the burn rates in there because staring at data on a small screen is extremely frustrating. So it's how do you find something? How do you do something with it? Ideally, it's as simple as taking your phone, grabbing your product, scanning a location, scanning the product, putting an account, and saying where it's going. 3 steps, most of it automated through the scanning. So that's the focus there. Once we get over to the desktop, we've got a lot of different modules to play around and dig in. So when we get into our landing page or dashboard, we have the same sort of stuff we saw earlier. I won't dwell on it, just a different view where you have the maps and everything else that Vic was talking about. Where I want to get into the differences is once we dial into the other ways to view the inventory. So we have what's called our detailed inventory for consumables. It's similar to stuff that people have maybe seen in the past where it's a table view. We've got our global search up here, which is leveraged throughout. So as you start typing something, it's going to start narrowing it down on whatever it sees. So if I start with pharmacy and start typing through this resource typing category name, as I type in and narrow this down, it'll start narrowing down using the categories that we have. So it's a fantastic way for folks who aren't familiar with resource typing to get used to it. So I don't have to type in order either. I can start typing amoxicillin and it's going to bring up anything that has amoxicillin either in the product name or in the category name. One of the major hurdles we found during COVID was resistance to using category names because you have non-medical folks working in a warehouse who aren't familiar with the naming conventions and they couldn't find what they needed quick enough. This eliminates that need and makes it a lot easier for people to adapt to the system. The other thing that's really great about the detailed version is you can export any view you have. Your data is your data. We firmly believe that that's a tenet of ours. So if you do a search and you like what you see, go ahead. You can export that as a CSV and then you can manipulate it outside of the system. There's also things like filters that you can do. So if you want to filter by storage location and add that in there, you can do that as well. You can add different types of like filter by lot. You can sort by expiration. And you can view this whole thing in a grid view, which I love. It's one of those things that makes things a lot easier. You can bring up images and a card view. If you click on any one of these, it's similar to what Vic was showing us earlier, where you get that baseball card with all the information and you can take action. This is great if you love data and it shows every product in every location. What we said beyond that was, how do we make this more streamlined for folks? So we came up with a simplified inventory that aggregates all the counts to that category level. So we have all of the pharmacy here on top with the quantities, as well as its average daily burn rate and days left. And I'd mentioned that burn rate part that is only on the desktop. If you come up to this upper right corner, you're going to see a drop down that allows you to go from 7 days, the last 14 days, last 30 days, year to date. Those are all quick inputs or a custom date range. And you can apply a custom date range of 3 days, 17, whatever it is. The system then will look at those last however many days and figure out what your average daily burn rate is. Based on your burn rate and what you have on hand, it's going to tell you how many days you're sustainable. It's a guess. It's not going to say, hey, this is everything and this is exactly where your response is going. But if you're ever wondering, God, how many those pellets, how quickly are they going to go? Based on your current levels and burns, it's going to give you a pretty good indication.
So you're looking at this, Ethan, at a category level view for Cipro, Doxy, and Moxicillin. So this SNS, situation where we're doing MCM, these medical countermeasures. So you're looking at this potentially, see which one's burning hotter. And then you would also want to know site location too, right? If you're at the main warehouse and you want to know which pods, if you're in a decently sized jurisdiction and you thought maybe all the folks are going to come to this pod, but you want accurate counts to know where they're actually coming, how fast, which ones are burning where.
And here's a good example of that. So once we click into the category here, let's go with the doxycycline. It's going to bring up the detailed product views in this bottom square. Above that, it's going to give us visualizations. So we can come through and it's going to show us charts for all of these things. Right off the bat, we can see that 2 are expired. We have 2 instances. It's the same lot number, but it's in 2 different locations. So it's put there twice. This receiving, we just received this doxycycline. If we wanted to put this in with everything else, we just come in here. You can still take action with this. So if I needed to move this over to, let's put it in with the rest of the doxy, which is D1. And then I just want to take everything that's in there, that entire count, hit submit and hit submit. That's it. I've corrected that error. I've moved it over from our receiving and it's now over with everything else with the doxycycline. So I no longer, this has been married up and I, streamlined that view. The other thing, I'm not big on tables. I don't think they tell you a ton. They're good for storing data, but being able to look at storage locations and see where everything is. So I know that we've already put 5,000 of this doxy in this staging area. It's ready to go out. The rest of it is all neat and nice in this storage area A35D1. If I wanted to look by expiration, it's also going to show me that too. I don't have to go look at this column and look at every individual record. I can see what's expired and what's going to expire. If I want to go one step further, and I'm going to change my group here from the warehouse to a pod response. I'm going to select that pod 1 that Vic had shown us earlier. If I come in here and if I look at this doxycycline, I got 3 instances of it. It shows me the expiration. It shows me the lot, the location. It's all in one, probably in a closet there. But more importantly, this top tab, I can switch from my local view at my pod to any of the sites in that group. So I have all the other pods right here, pod 1, 2, 3, 4. It shows me what they have on hand, how quickly they're using it, and it gives me visualizations for it. So what the burn rates are for each one of those pods and how many days left. Kind of been putting a lot of dummy data in here over the last few days. So this one is maybe not the best to show how you would leverage that, but being able to see that everybody else is in as much pain as sort of you are, or that you have 4 days left and everybody else only has 0. This might be a reason for me to reach out proactively and say, hey guys, we have a lot more stuff. We can get this over to you as quickly as possible so you can continue your operations. Drew, go ahead.
Yeah. So, on this call, we're doing SNS, medical countermeasures. Within that, we've all been trained on this call to try to get that Cipro, that Doxy in folks within the first 72 hours, right? We're trying to lower that mortality rate. Any way we can get the pills into the people, that's one of our goals. However, in one of these situations, there's so many planning assumptions that it's going to keep going on. A complex event that we've never had before. And needing to have data that goes on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that can be captured up there in that top menu bar, right? From that last 7 days. So if we want to see what the burn rate was the last 7 days, or compared to the whole response, let's say 2 weeks out, last 14 days, how do you change that?
Burn rate timeline is just on the upper right-hand side, right? Yeah. So if we're going to choose one of those 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, quick drop downs, or custom, right? The last 2 days, you've been using a lot more. You've seen an uptick. So just use the last 2 days of burn rate data if that's what you're expecting more of. So that's why we have those burn rates. They're easy to use. I transitioned over to our insights dashboard, our analytics for consumables. What you see here is a historical usage. I've added all 3 of our pharmacy products that we have in the system right now. It's going to show what we've used over those 7 days because that's what I have selected. Historically, if I switch to the projected, it's going to show you the slope that we're using each one of those products and the estimated date it will end. So really cool visualization there. You can print this off as a PDF to hand as a quick report to reduce some of that headache. On the right side, it's going to show any product you've added to that search. And if you want to dig in to get those quick facts, that very similar view to what was on the dashboard and what was in the mobile, you can do that. So click into any product. It's going to expand that, and it's going to start giving you additional data. How many days are remaining, what your current stock is, what your average burn rate is for 7 days, and what you burned in those 7 days. If you want to see the whole response, just select a different timeline, and that will give you that whole response. At the bottom, it shows you what's available by location. So we have 2 warehouses in our warehouse group. We've got our main warehouse and our auxiliary. So it shows you what we have on hand for the products you selected. If you remove products, it's going to change, and it's only going to show you what's on hand for those products. It's going to show you what's going to expire within 30 days, what is not going to expire, and what is expired. Currently, nothing expired in this chart. And then on the right, this is a really cool feature that we've added recently. It estimates the cost of everything that's being used, that's being searched there for that period of time. So it'll give you a daily cost, that estimate, what you're using per day to sustain this operation. It'll give you the total cost for that time period. And then it breaks it down by, this is how much has been used. This is how much you've deployed out to partner agencies or hospitals. This is how much has been, how much the expired material has costed you or damaged. And if you're a visual person like me, we got a graph. So, right, you can print this off, send it to folks, do what you need to do. Hopefully it's meant to clear up time for you so you can go back to doing the response stuff that you're really good at and not having to sit in Excel and create pretty graphs to send to the mayor's office or the governor's office. People like pretty pictures. We get it. That's why we added it in there. Steve, what do you got, sir?
Yeah, one quick question for you. And for the cost, is that cost to replace, cost of what they paid for it? What's define cost for us?
Fantastic question. It is cost to replace. So we have an API where we'll pull 3 different price points in, average those out, and it's what you will have to pay to retain that capability in the future, to backfill. Again, going off of reimbursements and how do you maximize some of those funds so that you're better positioned for the future. I'm going to switch over to our assets. I know we're running tight on time, so I'm going to try to make this short. Assets, anything with a unique ID, serial number, asset tags. We can generate asset tags for you in the system. That's not a problem. So if you don't have unique IDs and asset tags, we got that for you. These same universal search bar, right? If we want to search Voxin, we can look for Voxin. We can look for categories. That universal search bar at the top remains the same. These buttons at the top will show you what's available, what's deployed, what's in maintenance. If you click on one, it's a quick sort. So if you want to see what's deployed, you can see that very quickly. You can see what's available really quickly. If you want to use a combination of the two, so if I want to just search phones, it's going to start bringing up phones, and I want to see what's deployed. I have every phone that's been deployed in my system right here. That was 2 clicks. Super fast, super easy. You can export this like everything else. Grid view, if you want to see it in a grid, you can see what's deployed. You can bring it up. You can see who it's deployed to. So right now it's with Toledo Hospital. You can look at the history of it. We have those user-defined fields for you to leverage. These are however you want to do it. Things like IMEI numbers for phones, you just internally say, let's use that UDF1 for IMEI. Let's use UDF2 for phone number. Same thing for vehicles, VIN numbers, license plates, things like that. That is yours to use however you like it. Another really cool feature about this is the mapping feature. If you switch it over to map, you can see where things are deployed, and it'll give you, when you click on it, it gives you the contact information right there. You don't have to go digging through a lot of layers. You can just bring that up and see that here's the point of contact's name, their phone number, their email. So leveraging that to make your life easier. And it works for all the different variables in here. And once you do that search, you can switch that over to that mapped view. The other thing that's really cool is we have an insights dashboard for assets. It's a little different than consumables. Consumables are what's being used at what rate. Assets are much more of where are our things and how do we get them back? So things like if we wanted to bring up, our pickup trucks, we've got 3 available, 2 deployed, 0 in maintenance. If we switch that over to ventilators, we got 3 in maintenance. We have 12 available and 5 are deployed. I'm trying to think if we got anything in here that, yes, this is a good one. So not only does it show you in the left available, deployed, and maintenance, as well as what's available at your location or in your group, it also shows you your internal versus external usage at the bottom. So this light blue is your external partners, dark blue is internal, your agency. And then it will show you at the top, if you toggle, right now it says we have 1 agency site and 1 partner site are using a total of 2 assets. But when you toggle, it'll tell you exactly what your agency internal usage is and your partner usage. So if you had multiple partners that you had deployed things to, 15 phones to 7 different partners, you would see 7 partners, 15 assets. This is really helpful when folks are saying, well, what are we doing to support, hospitals? What are we doing to support other agencies? And you need to come up with that information quickly. The last couple things that I'll kind of touch on, and I know we're moving really, really quick through it, is how we're trying to make lives better. It's great to know where stuff is. I spent hours trying to make resource requests. So we put together this 213RR calculator. It's kind of like a shopping list that has a lot of projection capabilities in it. So first you start off with adding how many days you need supplies for. So let's say we want to be solvent for 10 days. We can look at our fire list and see what is critical, and we can add some of those items to our shopping list here. We can also search for different things like surgical masks and see what we have available or what we need. Let's just add that to the resupply as well. It's going to tell us what your current quantity is. But again, based on our timeline that we've already selected, it's going to tell us how much we use per day, what it thinks we need to be solvent for those 10 days I already selected. And then it's going to give us a recommended number that we need to have in hand. So I'm just going to accept those just as they are. Masks, it says we're good on. I don't need to add any masks, so I'm not going to add those masks. When I add those numbers, it's going to give that projected cost. That's just a nice thing to have there. Once you take this, and if you needed to change the days, right? Maybe we needed 20 days of solvency. We can do that, and it can update things. We can hit export, and we can export it either as a CSV file, just so that it's universally leverageable, or a 213 RR PDF. I am on a different screen there, so let me switch that over.
Ethan, while you bring that up to, question from Ivan, I think you're hitting on here right now, an urgent ticket request or supplies from a specific location, a field site, a pod to the main warehouse. How would that look in this system?
Yeah, great question, Ivan. So the flow that we have currently is locally, we've got a couple of different things. First is sort by expiration, and you'll be able to see all the critical items. So it always starts local with that logistics manager at that pod. They're going to see what's critical either by expiration or by usage. And they can see I'm going to be running out soon. Adding it to this 213RR form, it generates it based on their location. So it's going to take my name because I'm assigned to that site. It's going to populate that site location. It's going to populate all of the items and the quantities, and I can send that out. This used to take me a couple days, honestly, to put together between the counts and actually filling it out during COVID to just what you guys saw us run through here. The other way that we're trying to help people get ahead of things, besides this 213RR calculator, is a weekly email reminder that we've generated. So it's an opt-in. You check a checkbox, and it will generate an email weekly of what's going to expire soonest, within 30 days. And then also what is approaching maintenance. We're looking for feedback on what the best windows are for everybody. If you're doing a rotation of stock and you're trying to pull consumables early enough that other people can use them, and you can put in their further off their expiration that's further off, that's going to take a little more time. So is it like a 6-month window people want? Is it a year window? What does that look like? It'll generate that email and all the consumables and assets that meet that requirement. So you don't even have to come into the system anymore. It'll ping you and kind of hit you kind of right in front and say, hey, these are the things you need to kind of keep your focus on. The other thing that I don't have time to bring up because we want to get to some other stuff is we recently built out the capability to do interagency transfers. So if 2 people are on the system, totally separate agencies, could be across the United States, just how Vic had shown us our ability to transfer internally, we can transfer between any agency and have that seamless. When it gets to you, you get to verify it, right? It's a 2-part process where it's a send and a receive, but we do have that bridge built out. So if you're thinking of this SNS umbrella, if you're looking to create a coalition among states or locals, if people are on the system, you can send stuff between people, which, as far as I know, I have not seen that done. And it is, I think, a critical step in moving towards resilience now.
That goes to my theme of where, again, the SNS might be changing. The federal government's role might be changing. And some of this stuff, some of this is going to be on us to fill that as states and locals. A part of it is going to have to be the tether, the connective tissue amongst ourselves and systems that we make. Processes can't just be technology tools too, and agreements. And I think that's a really one that it might force our hand into being a better place if we adopt similar processes and tools. Ethan, one more question for the Q&A here. Max had a cool question. I think I know where you're going with a lot of this, Max, but he's real curious on cool, this is great, but the admin setup, can you just show briefly how to add a warehouse from the very beginning or a user, maybe one of those 2 things? And Max, we can show you a little bit more if it's helpful one-on-one on the admin side of stuff. And I think it's, in my experience with my LMSs in the past, this has also been the make or break is how you set it up, right? Not just the data, but setting it up, not just getting the right inventory and clean inventory in, but the setup of it as far as warehouses and which ones are in which. That can be a headache that gets uglier if it's not done properly. So
yeah, this is a really good question. So couple things. Category consumables, really easy to add. You create a category by coming in and adding a new category. Once you have a category, you'll see when you click here on the admin side, you can see all the individual products. That's what Vic was doing with the mobile. It's honestly the easiest to do it on the mobile because you can just scan it. You can also scan it if you have a scanner connected to your computer or your camera on your laptop to pull in through the API. But this is how you can then either add manually a product or you can scan it in. So once it's in the system, everybody has access to it. And that's just part of the flow. When you grab something in receiving that's a new product, make sure to add it to the system. Make sure you have a category for it. Once it's added, everybody throughout the system downstream has access to it, and they never have to touch that critical information ever again in terms of lot expiration. You don't have to worry about people messing things up, fat fingering things in the wrong way. For things like users, same thing. You can come in, you can create a user, add a user really easily. Sites, groups and sites. Here's a pod.
Yeah, I want to create a quick pod site. Could you walk through that?
Yeah. So pod site, here's our current pod sites. If I click on one here, it's going to bring up in the form and a map here. So this would be, we'll just say pod 5 for expediency. Address is anything that you want to put in there. Once you put it in there, it can map that out for us. So it's going to plot that and geotag it. You can also go by whatever it is on the map. So if you know exactly where you want to go and zoom in, you can click on that. It's going to update that information. We capture a lot. If you have financial information that's attached to that pod, you can include it. You can include notes. This is where that primary POC information also comes in. So for this, we can say that I'm the POC. It's going to be me at Logista, phone numbers, all that good stuff. The really important thing is just to make sure that the group, it's going to pre-populate it. Just make sure the group matches, and then you can hit save. And we've created a new site, and we can leverage that however we want throughout the system. Cool. You can caches and pre-position stuff, and then you can change the location of that cache to then mobilize it. So I can come in here and I can say, oh, I have this cache already ready to go. I can edit this site, change the group from FMS cache to pods, and now it's an active site. Everything I pre-positioned there is already moved over to that other group and being tracked for reimbursement. So it's
what about restriction access for users or partner agencies? Who can see what? Are we able to put guardrails or restrictions on who can see what?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's by permissions. So where people are deployed to, either a site, or if you're looking to expand this for situational awareness, that's a conversation we can have with you on what that looks like. Who do you want to have visibility into what? But we have tiered permissions for that very purpose. One, so people can't take action on certain things that they should be able to take action on, as well as just making it easier for folks to focus where their level of work is.
So the most basic example, your pod workers who are scanning it in on the mobile phone at pod B can't see the inventory necessarily at the other pods or their warehouse, just what's at their staging area at the pod, unless you want to change that. And then for something like the state health department, if they want to share stuff with locals, if they're on it, the locals can see theirs, but they can't see what the state has because obvious reasons.
Fantastic questions. Any other questions, folks?
I think that does it. There's a couple follow-ups we can do, but I think that does it for Q&A with our time. So I think we just ran through a lot. The point I want to drive home with this slide quickly, is we're not into limitations. We don't want to count your assets, your users, your square footage of a warehouse. Ethan and I were deployed on the same COVID mission at one point, and we needed more Microsoft licenses for OneDrive, and we couldn't get them right away. We had to call and go through HR and then expand it because Microsoft wouldn't give it right away. By that time, it's over. And we made a promise we're not going to do that for something like this. You need to expand quickly in something like the SNS. You can expand it. And that's what this is made to do. That's the difference between a retail. That's the difference between a custom where you have to go back. It's unlimited sites, unlimited users, unlimited assets you want in there. And if there's other jurisdictions partner within your region that want to get on it too, then you can really do some powerful stuff, and all that's still included. Next slide, Ethan.
The one thing I'll kind of add on here is just that, don't trust us, right? Trust but verify. Go talk to some other folks, the commercial sites, the logistics system. There is an issue of whether or not it tracks stuff the way you need it to be properly. Just if you do chat with them, really push and just try to make sure they're clear, because a lot of that stuff gets hidden and you don't realize that, like, things like analytical dashboards, people are charging money for. They'll advertise it as something that comes with it. And then when you dig into it, you're like, well, I got to spend another $100,000 just to get where we need to be. So we made that a tenet and in core to what we're doing to try to get everybody what they need when they need it.
Thank you all for everything you do, everyone in emergency management, everyone in public health. I'm no longer on the front lines doing the hard work. I'm here to help the helpers at this point, and that's you. So I mean it when I say it. I'm extremely grateful. I have nothing but gratitude for everything you do that's unseen, everything you do that's underfunded, that you don't necessarily get to see the fruits of your labors and the end results of everything. It's so important. So thank you. And thanks for coming by today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Ciao, chap.